I am.
We've got Trevor and Stephanie. Great. Okay, so shall we come to order then, please? It's commenced. We've got the public meeting. Are there any changes to the agenda? As you know, I did send some correspondence, but I think they should go into the in-camera because they're not released yet by the groups that sent them. Any changes to the agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve and proceed with the agenda? Moved by Mary, second by Jacqueline. Any all in favour? Thank you. Any opposed? None opposed. Okay, we have the agenda approved. And then you will have seen the minutes, and I'm very pleased to tell everyone I've got all my systems working here, Scott. I've got you on one screen. I've got the agenda on the other screen. Who
Mr.
knew?
Mayor?
Yes.
The territorial acknowledgement, please.
Yes, that's right. Very good. You want to do that right now? I'll do that then. What we could do is let's put it into the agenda in the sequence for future meetings, because that is something that we do need to do, and we can make a note of it in the agenda. Maybe it should go before approval of the agenda. Can we just take that as an action item, please? Is it appropriate that we begin by acknowledging that the district of Saanich lies within the territories of the Lohongwins peoples, represented by the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and the Saanich peoples, represented by the Startlup, Seacom, Sayal, Pukachewin, and Malahat nations. And I did that from memory. I thought that was quite good, because it's important that we take reconciliation to heart, and we should start to have these ingrained in us in terms of what we're saying. Moving on, we also know we're committed to celebrating the rich diversity of people in our community. We are guided by the principle that embracing diversity enriches the lives of all people. We all share the responsibility for creating an equitable and inclusive community and for addressing discrimination in all its forms. As we know, September the 30th was the first National Day of Reconciliation, and it was pleasing to see how many Saanich residents were out, members of council, and I'm sure board members were out, noting the significance of that day. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes, please. Any changes or corrections on the minutes? Seeing none, could we have a motion to approve, please? Mary moved, second by Linda. Any opposed? Seeing none, minutes are approved. Thank you. Correspondence. I don't see any correspondence on the open portion of our meeting. No new business arising. Divisional updates. Over to Scott, please, to bring in Inspector Warren.
Yes, Inspector Warren has the majority of his briefing to take place in the public portion, and there's also a little bit of in-camera business that he'll cover off in the in-camera portion. So if I could ask you to proceed, Rob, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Is everyone able to see my screen?
That's a lovely screen. Love it.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to update the Saanich Police Board and our community on the work being done by our committed staff in the Community Engagement Division. For those community members who are either joining us today or are likely going to be seeing the recording after the fact, my name is Rob Warren, and I serve as the officer in charge of the Community Engagement Division. Before I begin, I would like to personally acknowledge that I live and work on the ancestral and territorial, traditional territories of many First Nations whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. I recognize the land as an act of reconciliation and as an expression of my gratitude for our Indigenous peoples, traditional knowledge keepers, and community elders as well. So thank you for that. As the officer in charge of the Community Engagement Division, my daily responsibility is to provide leadership, support, and resources to the staff in our division and ensure that our organization's mission, vision, and values find grounding in our outreach, engagement, and program activities for the department. I'm assisted in this work by our division Staff Sergeant Daryl Underwood. Staff Sergeant Underwood is a thoughtful and well-respected leader in our organization and in the community as a member of the Saanich First Nation. I'd be hard-pressed to identify a divisional success in this presentation that hasn't benefited from his guidance and support. I know I speak for all of our teams when I say how much we appreciate his personal, professional, and cultural contributions to our work. The purpose of my presentation today is as follows. First, to provide you with an overview of the Community Engagement Division organizational structure and responsibilities. Second, to inform you of the outreach and engagement activities of key stakeholders and community members. And third, to highlight the achievements of these remarkable women and men that enhance community safety and well-being and advance our collective commitment to building public trust and confidence in our organization and in the policing profession. The Community Engagement Division is divided into 4 work units. The first is School Liaison Section. and then also the youth section, bike section, and the crime prevention unit. While each of these units has its own mandate and area of expertise, there is considerable overlap between these work units and other divisions in the organization. I've only been serving in this role now as the officer in charge of the Community Engagement Division since June 1st of this year. But one of the things that has really stood out for me is the level of cooperation and support that our staff routinely provides to one another to achieve program goals outside of their own area of responsibility. In addition to the many primary duties, many of our staff have volunteer activities in the community, serving on boards and committees such as the Greater Victoria Police Diversity Advisory Committee, as well as community coaching and mentoring activities. The Community Engagement Division is a remarkably positive environment of enthusiastic people who are genuinely interested in the advancement of community safety and well-being, and I consider myself very fortunate to have this opportunity to work with and learn from them. I'll use the remainder of my time today to provide you with an overview of each work unit's structure and mandate and some recent achievements, as well as our focus for the months ahead. Our school liaison section is led by Sergeant Jody Pavicic, who also oversees our youth section. Sergeant Pavicic is a working sergeant in that she has several schools for which she is the dedicated school liaison officer in addition to her supervisory duties. Sergeant Pavicic is supported by 4 constables, Constable Eric Meisner, Corey Volk, Andrea Toombs, and Alex Omeding, each of whom have their own schools for which they are the designated school liaison officer. The SPD School Liaison Program provides a wide variety of personal safety and crime prevention programming, as well as direct supports to students and staff at 53 elementary, middle, secondary, and post-secondary schools in the Greater Victoria area. These include 28 schools in the Victoria School District number 61, 8 schools in the Saanich School District number 63, 14 independent schools, Camosun College, the University of Victoria, and the Victoria Native Friendship Centre. Our school liaison officers only deliver programming that has been requested and approved by the administrators and teachers at each school. This ensures that the content and delivery is timely, relevant, and in keeping with the culture and needs of the individual institutions. At the district level, our staff participate in the implementation of the regional lockdown committee protocols that are intended to mitigate the risk associated with in-progress active threat incidents in educational settings. Some more routine programming offered by our school liaison officers includes internet safety, drug and alcohol awareness, law and criminal justice class presentations, school zone safety, Halloween safety, and any presentation on emerging or current issues that the school community would like assistance with. This sometimes includes cyber and in-person bullying, image sharing over the internet, etc. Over the past year, community educational institutions across the country have received requests from various community stakeholders to reconsider the role of police in providing direct programming and having an ongoing presence in school settings. In essence, these are calls to reevaluate the school liaison program, service delivery model, and consider the less desirable impacts of the program for some students and staff and community members through a different lens. Here in our community, the Victoria School District 61 is undertaking such a review and has struck a committee of stakeholders to create space for these discussions. We've been supporting that committee's work over the past year by providing a dedicated police representative who can field questions and follow up on inquiries from the committee in a timely way to inform the decision-making about the future of this program in the Victoria School District. Staff Sergeant Daryl Underwood is our primary contact person, excuse me, for the committee, and he keeps me updated on the progress of deliberations and information requests we receive. We welcome these important discussions and look forward to receiving the recommendations of the committee in 2022. In the meantime, we continue to play an active role in school communities and are reassured by the strong support we receive from a number of institutions, staff members, and most importantly, from the young people we are here to serve. Just last week, Constables Meisner and Volk were invited to participate in a 2-day camping trip to Bamberton with grade 4 and 5 classes at Mackenzie Elementary School from School District 61. These officers joined 40 students, 3 teachers, and a Malahat Nation knowledge keeper in a variety of outdoor education activities. Some of the highlights, I understand, were the ocean sciences activities prepared and delivered by Constable Eric Meisner, who holds a master's degree in aquatic ecotoxicology, and the coffee and food logistics expertly executed by Constable Corey Volk for the entire camp experience. Our youth section is supervised by Sergeant Jody Pavicic and staffed by 2 constables, Constable Sean Kay and Constable Steve Robinson. These officers have a primary mandate of engaging with high risk and vulnerable youth with a focus on early intervention, identifying and remediating risks for the youth in our community, and promoting the youth empowerment. Our officers are engaged with youth between the ages of 13 and 19 and a variety of government and non-government stakeholders, including the following: community living facility operators, the Ministry of Children and Family Development, Youth Crown Council, Youth Probation, and local nonprofit youth service organizations. Establishing and maintaining respectful relationships with high-risk youth underpins both the philosophy and the delivery of this program. Success or failure in these efforts is intimately linked to the people who we choose for these important roles. Our officers are kind, empathic professionals who are committed to empowering youth to make better decisions for themselves, supporting them on their path for growth and development, and holding them accountable when the circumstances require it. Our stakeholders routinely provide feedback about the critical importance of this program and their genuine approach of the youth section members to contributing to meeting their respective child welfare and public safety mandates. Our bike section consists of 1 sergeant, Steve Kruk, and 3 constables, Stephen Reichert, Shelley Eddy, and Benoit Lantier. Together, they execute a joint mandate of proactive community engagement and focused crime prevention activities. Like our youth section officers, our bike section has established strong community relationships with government and nonprofit stakeholders to help address community safety and well-being issues in Saanich. Some of these stakeholders include BC Housing, Island Health, Pacifica Housing, Portland Housing Society, Homeless Action Response Team, the District of Saanich's Park and Recreation Department, the Capital Regional District, the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, and the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. The bike section is particularly well equipped to conduct daily patrols of our parks and green spaces to engage with persons experiencing homelessness, check their welfare, and connect them with services. This also helps to ensure the compliance with the District of Saanich's Parks Management and Control bylaw. For many of these vulnerable persons, our bike section officers are the most consistent group of people checking in on them. And through these relationships, we've been able to achieve some notable outcomes for the unhoused persons in our community. Over the past several months, the bike section has played a critical role in assisting several vulnerable persons in Saanich to secure long-term housing and additional supports. A couple of examples. In the fall of 2020, the district received numerous complaints about discarded property, garbage, and biological hazards in the area of the Ravine Way Tunnel. The bike section took on this concern with a problem-oriented policing lens, as well as an engagement approach with those who are frequenting the area. Their efforts led to the closure of the tunnel for public safety, and through outreach with Island Health, a new mental health treatment protocol for one of the tunnel occupiers who was without adequate supports in the community. In February of 2021, a long-standing encampment on the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure property at the Mackenzie Avenue interchange had to be vacated due to ongoing fire risks to persons living at the site and the surrounding community. Ongoing attendance at the encampment and relationship building with the residents and stakeholders resulted in new safe housing arrangements for everyone who wanted it at the encampment. As frontline uniformed personnel, our bike section officers have been an ongoing support to the patrol division, attending crimes in progress, searching for suspects, and taking on crime interdiction projects that are beyond the scope of patrol resources, but may not warrant the involvement of our street crime unit. Crime prevention. Our crime prevention unit consists of 3 full-time staff members, Supervisor Sergeant Sherry Walsh, Constable Aaron Wagg, and Mr. Ian Gibbs. These 3 staff members are really the tip of the iceberg for the Community Engagement Division, as they are the primary point of contact for our cadre of nearly 50 civilian volunteers and over 50 reserve constables for the Saanich Police Department. Constable Aaron Wagg is our primary point of contact for problem-oriented policing and support of community stakeholders who would like to take a proactive approach to enhancing community safety in their neighborhoods. Constable Wagg has received specialized training in crime prevention through environmental design, which allows her to conduct evaluations of the spatial layout and security framework of residences, businesses, and institutions, and make recommendations where improvements can be made to help ensure the safety of people and the security of property. Over the past several months, Constable Wagg has been providing ongoing support to the Mount Ptolemy Community Association and local businesses in the area, providing CPTED assessments and reports to businesses and residences. In addition, Constable Wagg is also regularly engaged with the District of Saanich Bylaw Enforcement Unit, providing support to their investigations and looking for opportunities to find efficiencies and alignment of mandates through joint attendance and to locations in the community where required. Mr. Ian Gibbs, depicted there on the left, is our coordinator of volunteers for the Saanich Police Department and is the primary point of contact for the community for information and resources. He is also the daily administrator of our Block Watch program, which currently stands at 520 active block associations, encompassing nearly 10,000 homes in Saanich. Over the past several months, we've seen an uptick in the interest for the Business Watch branch of this program, with greater communication and information sharing amongst business stakeholders. We are excited about the eventual opening of our community safety office at Uptown Center. In 2020, we put in a call to the community for volunteers who would be interested in partnering with the SPD and staffing the community safety office on our behalf. In essence, to provide supports to the community through community members who understand and are engaged with our organization. We received significant interest from the community for this opportunity, eventually selecting and training over 50 volunteers from diverse backgrounds to staff the Community Safety Office. Mr. Gibbs remains in regular contact with our volunteers with information updates and with online training opportunities to keep them engaged with our organization pending the resumption of full volunteer services. Some of these training topics have included victim services, speed watch, block watch, fraud prevention, elder abuse, and Orange Shirt Day. During the past summer, we were able to employ 4 students as crime prevention workers under the daily supervision of Mr. Gibbs. We were fortunate to have Mr. Eric Lowe return to the program as the team leader this year, along with new members Abby Stamper, Sydney Moore, and Cage Hundall. From May through August 2021, these young leaders organized several community events that added value to our crime prevention and community safety framework. Some of these events included ICBC road safety and lockout autocrime initiatives, Smile for a Child toy drive for the Victoria General Hospital, implementation of the Project 529 bike registry program, Elder Abuse Awareness Day events, Proactive Business Watch program outreach and engagement, Speed Watch and Cell Watch programs, just to name a few. Each of these young leaders had the opportunity to engage with our staff across the divisions and in various areas of specialization. At the conclusion of the program, each of the students had voiced an interest in pursuing policing as a potential career choice, and several are interested in joining our existing cadre of volunteers to staff the Community Safety Office when it's open to the public. These are remarkable young people who are a strong voice for our organization. They know who we are and they know what we stand for. And they're not shy about communicating that when they're engaging with their peers who may not have a full appreciation for policing in the Canadian context. We're very fortunate to have them affiliated with our organization, and we're grateful for their contributions to the department and the community during what was a challenging year. In addition to overseeing our crime prevention unit activities, Sergeant Sherry Walsh is the primary coordinator for our Reserve Constable program. This program has been in place since 1942 for the Saanich Police Department and has an authorized strength of 55 members. Each year, our Reserve Constables contribute over 8,000 hours of voluntary service in support of our community outreach initiatives and frontline police service delivery. During the pandemic, we scaled back the deployment of our Reserve Constables to align ourselves with both community expectations and public health restrictions. Despite these limitations, our Reserve Constables were still able to play an active role in a variety of programs and support services to include drinking driving counterattack check stops, boat patrol program, speed watch program, cell watch program, and lockout autocrime initiatives. Effective September 15th of 2021, just this past month, Reserve Constables have been permitted to return to operational deployments with our frontline patrol division members. For many of our reserves, these are the opportunities that they have been missing the most. And for those who graduated in our Reserve Constable training program in February of 2020, this will be the first opportunity for them to deploy and support a frontline police service delivery in Saanich. All of our reserves will be going through a process of skills recertification and preparation for redeployment, and many have chosen to participate in a new mentorship program created by Sergeant Sherry Walsh to help ensure that they are feeling well prepared to resume their duties. This is typical of the leadership and mentorship provided by Sergeant Walsh in many areas of our organization, something that was formally recognized by Chief Green just this last month by presenting Sergeant Walsh with a Chief Constable's Commendation Leadership Award. As I mentioned earlier in my remarks, our staff routinely look for opportunities to engage with the community and address areas of need beyond the scope of their primary duties. A recent example of this is the work done by Constable Eric Meisner and the Saanich Police Department Safe Place program. The Safe Place program was started by the Seattle Police Department in 2014 when they partnered with community business owners to create safe places where a victim of a hate-based crime could seek refuge and support while waiting for the police to attend and assist them. At the time, the Seattle Safe Place program was primarily focused on the 2S LGBTQ+ community to provide much needed supports. Constable Meisner received approval from the Seattle Police Department to bring this program to Saanich, and he implemented a new, broader vision for our program to create safe places for our 2S LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC community, and our newcomer communities in Saanich. Program implementation began in June of this year with the full support of the Victoria Pride Society, the Intercultural Association of Greater Victoria, and the Greater Victoria Police Diversity Advisory Committee. With the support of Mayor Haynes in the District of Saanich, as well as Chief Burgess in the Saanich Fire Department, we have now designated all police and fire stations, as well as District of Saanich buildings, as safe places for all vulnerable persons living in and visiting Saanich. We will continue to build out the program with private businesses in the coming months, We anticipate that the program will expand to neighboring jurisdictions under this new program umbrella in the coming months to come. Constable Meisner's efforts to implement this program will add considerable value to our community safety framework and will provide new opportunities for us to engage with and hear from members of our vulnerable communities who wish to share their experiences with the police in a trauma-informed, culturally responsive way. For his efforts and achievements with the Safe Place program, I was pleased to present Constable Meisner with a Division Commander's Commendation in June of this year. I'd like to conclude my remarks today just by acknowledging the impacts that the events over the past 20 months have had on our community. The COVID-19 global pandemic has exposed the fragility of our healthcare and economic systems. The murder of George Floyd renewed calls for police reform, enhanced oversight, and social justice. And the location of 215 unmarked graves of Indigenous children has shone a light on the devastating impact of institutional racism for our First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. The downstream effects of these seismic events are felt differently by everyone, but we know that they are magnified for vulnerable persons in our community. Everything has changed. And my hope, both as a father and as a police officer, is that these changes will foster new opportunities for us to listen, learn, and act together to ensure that we are creating a more just, safe, and inclusive community for everyone. I've spent some time today highlighting for you the work that our Community Engagement Division has been doing in partnership with our stakeholders. These are notable outcomes, and we are very proud of our ability to work with the community to keep Saanich safe. As a police leader, I also want everyone to know that we want to hear from our members of our community who feel that more work needs to be done. And we need their help to do that and to achieve our mission. We ask that they please take the time to engage with us in respectful dialogue, share their perspectives, and work with us to ensure that policing in Saanich stands out as a model of culturally informed and community responsive public safety service delivery for others to follow. We are here to serve the community, and we need the community's support to achieve our mutual goals. That concludes my presentation content for the day. I really thank you all for your time and attention, and I'm happy to respond to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Wow, that was an amazingly broad and deep presentation. Thank you, Inspector Warren. Over to the board, please. Mary. You're muted, Mary.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much, Rob. As always, you gave a very excellent presentation. I just wondered, in all the work that your folks do out in the community, if you really come across individuals or groups or organizations that are anti-police or very critical of police. Do you find that exists to any great degree in Saanich?
Not so far that our community engagement officers have experienced that they communicated to me. I think what we see a bit more is just a lack of perhaps a full understanding of what policing is like in Saanich relative to what we're seeing in many of the news broadcasts coming to the United States. And it really is such an interesting thing to take a look at, because the globalization of information and responses in the instantaneous way in which it is passed, it really can overwhelm individuals who don't have anything else to check it against. So one of the things that's going against us to a degree is that the pandemic has really limited our ability to get out amongst those young community groups. For example, in schools, the number of activities being hosted internally for our school liaison officers to attend has been somewhat limited. But nonetheless, we also see people who have approached. I had my own experience just last week picking up something for lunch, where a person approached me and just thanked me for being a police officer, acknowledging that these are very challenging times, and just saying that we still enjoy the support of a large number of people, but it's challenging in this environment to speak up and provide that from time to time. So I think the important thing is to really create space and be intentional, which is what I'm trying to do here in our presentation for those community members that are going to watch it, and let them know that if they are feeling underserved or feeling that they're not getting the support that they need here, then we need to hear that from them. And it's just that first step for them to let us know, because we're certainly trying to do what we can to cast a broad brush to let people know more about what we're doing and who we are and what we stand for. But we need their cooperation to really lean into those conversations and meet us so we can be better.
Thank you. So Mary, I'll just come in on that. And Mary, can you chair for me? I just have to dash out for a second. But Robert, we're going to do the council's police meet tomorrow. There may be some questions around this, just for a heads up for you. But I'll be back shortly. Mary, would you chair, please?
Oh, Okay, right. Any other questions of Rob? Do Jackie, Glenn, Linda? Linda, do you have a question? Unmute, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to reach that little button with my big
I know.
finger. Yeah. Thank you, Rob. That's great. So this will give me some help too when we start looking at the terms for the stakeholder outreach committee. So this is very helpful. We've got some good feedback with that, and you've given me some ideas for some of that. So thanks. That's really good. Looking forward to working with you guys on that.
Thank you, Linda.
Glenn or Jacqueline, any questions? No, if not, okay. Well, again,
That's just excellent. Thanks, Robert. Thank you. Excellent.
yeah,
Thank you, Jack.
great. Well, thank you. And I know we'll continue to have these discussions, and please extend our thanks to all the great women and men who work with you in the Community Engagement Division. They do a great job. Well, let us move on now to committee reports. The first one is finance, and I think Glenn and Linda, I guess start with you, Glenn.
Thank you. We will be doing a review of the first pass of the budget in camera. And the deadline that we're working on is that if there's any changes to that at the start of February or the start of November, we will be able to approve the final budget, which has to be presented to council by the end of November. So that's the timetable we're working on. I think, am I right, Scott?
And Glenn, usually we've had a sort of an informal meeting with council to give them a heads up about things. Is that planned this year?
I don't know whether we're planning one yet or not.
Yes, we're working on dates right now for that, Mary, and that would align with the motion that council made a couple of years ago that they wish to meet with the board in advance of that November 30th memo deadline.
Right. Okay. Well, when Fred comes back, we can ask him about that. Linda, anything you wanted to add from? Whoops. I don't know.
Yes, and trying to get the volume to work. I've turned the camera and the volume on.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There we go. I'll become technologically sound soon. Yeah, we worked with Scott, and thank you to Scott and Joe for working on the memo that you've seen, that you will see when you look at the draft budget, because it's not a lot of changes from last year, but I don't think we'll have any problems with the deadlines, and just hoping to get some information from the mayor on possible areas for discussion from council.
Okay, so we can
Different
talk about
thoughts.
that in camera then too?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well then let's move, Linda, you're up with the governance and strategic planning.
Okay, thank you. Yes, well, I'm working a bit. Sorry, I'm a bit behind, but as you can see, there was a flurry of paperwork this morning as I started to get things ready. So I'm working on the workshop, and the reason I've left it for November, I was sort of hoping we would get through the provincial health orders to be able to meet in person. So hopefully by November, we may be able to get into a large room and get in together. This is a workshop for the board, and we talk. Usually the agenda is we look at the terms of reference. We'll look at the board evaluation. So I'll be sending that out. I'm going to shorten it. As you know, we talked last year, it was a bit longer. So I'll get that out. And then the website is up and going, the draft. So I've sent the link. So we'll look at those sorts of things. And then we'll look at a policy sort of project as well. So that's all coming. So I'm getting all those documents ready, and then we'll look at some terms of reference for the committees and get some changes made to the governance committee and work plans. So I'm working on all of that. So the emails will go out shortly, and then we'll find some dates that work for everybody in November, and we'll get together and hopefully get together and have a nosh and have a chat. So that's coming along. The one thing I'm behind on a bit, and I want to talk to Jacqueline and Shelley about, is just to get an update on the orientation for the new board members. I haven't had a chance to get together with those two ladies yet, and we will do that. Just want to know where we are in their process and what more they need to know. And I know they jump into the deep end of the pool, so we need to give them some floaties and some pool noodles to hang on to as they swim around out there. So I'm working on some of that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions of Linda on those issues? If not, now the stakeholder outreach.
That's me too.
Neither of the members of the committee are here, but I think Linda, you sent out some updated terms of reference this morning.
I did, yes. And so you'll see, I think we're discussing it in the in-camera meeting, and I'm taking over for Bowen while he's away. He's away for a couple of months, as you know. So he's asked me to deal with the draft terms of reference for the committee and with any other issues that might arise while he's gone from the administrative perspective. So if you have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk about the terms of reference, I guess, in the in-camera meeting. But let me know if there's anything for the general committee that you need to know.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, do you want to take over again then? We just covered finance, but we'll be coming back to that in camera. So I think that'll kind of bring you up to date then. And we're actually just down to my reports on human resources, etc. So
Thank you, Mary. And I did catch the last end then. Linda, thank you very much for preparing those terms of reference. And thank you for the prompt on the bios. That's appreciated. So Mary, over to you then for your reports on 6.4.
Well, we had a meeting of the HR Human Resources Committee just about a week ago and covered a number of areas. And of course, I think that Inspector Douglas is with us too. He gave a very fine outline of the great work that's going on in terms of recruitment. It's really going well. And we have complied with the new requirement from police services that the board, the department advise them regarding out of province exempt recruits, so that to make sure that they're going to have the proper training. And so we're setting up a system to make sure that we have that done. Inspector Douglas also updated us on the great work that the READY committee is doing, and that's the group that's looking at equity diversity issues. There's 19 people have volunteered to be part of that committee. There's also a coaching committee and a second class that has gone through the training for coaching, and have 24 coaches now, and all new hires have a coach. And we have a SharePoint site for the coaches, so great work going on there, as well as developing a new process for promotions as well, looking at that. And Inspector Douglas, I'm not sure was he or Scott, was able to advise us that the expectation or the sense is that about 95% of our staff have been vaccinated. And then finally, as you know, we joined the 30-30 pledge, which is that we would have 30% officers women by 2030. It's obvious that we're going to exceed that early and often. Doing very well on that. In fact, there's going to be a new video that the women officers are working on, similar to the recruitment video that was done. And that's going to be to encourage, of course, women to let them know about what's it like to be women in policing. So we're all certainly looking forward to that as well. A couple of other issues we're going to be talking about in camera at this point. I don't know, is anything else that Inspector Douglas that you would like to mention?
Hello, everyone. No, Mary, I think you covered that very well. The only thing I would clarify was the coaching course. We've put 12 people through, and we're hoping to have another 12, so we'll have 24. But that was the only piece there.
Right, good stuff. BCAPB, we just had a meeting of the board there. They're hoping, we haven't made a firm decision about the next conference. The idea is that it would be in person in Nelson in May of 2021, but there's still a lot of hesitation about that. Not only will all the restrictions be off, but will people really be prepared to go to Nelson? It is quite a little journey. So a final decision won't be made until November. They don't have to make a final decision in terms of the commitment to the hotel. So we'll keep you informed on that. The ministry reported that they have signed a 5-year contract with Watson Advisors to do board training, something we've been talking about for ages. That work is now, it's underway, and the hope is that early 22 we'll get started with the training program for board members, and we're certainly looking forward to that. There's a number of other issues that I'll just refer in camera as well that we heard from. And then on CAPG, they just had the conference, and I don't know how many other people were able to join in for at least part of the conference. I was only able to do part of it. Linda, you were as well. Anybody, I wasn't able to join the First Nations conference at all. So we'll get, I think they have recordings. We'll be able to get those. They are hoping again to do an in-person conference next year in Saskatoon in early August. Let's hope that will happen. And certainly a lot of focus of this past conference was on building relationships in the community. A lot of very good presentations on that. However, I must admit, I got pretty tired of just being virtual, and I found it very hard to really keep focused on it because a lot of it was just slides, not even the people talking. They were behind the scenes, and I just don't think that works very well. But there was certainly a lot of discussion around cost reductions and challenges of boards to do a deep dive, because this is something that boards across the country are facing. Dale McPhee from Edmonton, Chief of Police, he talked a lot about that we're lacking outcomes on what police do, and also that we have to think differently. And there was a lot of discussion about this, about thinking differently about all the money that's going into the system for housing and social welfare and health and policing. And for Edmonton, exactly, I think it was, they say 7.5 billion is spent on all of these services. And a number of the speakers talked about how we need a more integrated approach, a more cohesive approach about what it is we're spending on all these things. What are the outcomes? How might some of this be done differently? And for example, the shelter system is a feeling it's not working. And we need to have a continuum of services. I don't know who's going to take that on. We've talked about that a lot. I remember at BCAPG last year when we met with the minister, we actually challenged him to have an integrated approach to this at a provincial level, but I don't know, it doesn't seem to be happening. Have to keep working on that. One of the most interesting presentation was about cahoots. I know that's something the Victoria Police have been talking about, and then HELP, which is the next stage, which put public health, police, and not-for-profits together too. And I think that's a piece that's really important. I know with some other volunteer work I'm involved in, looking at all the not-for-profits around Greater Victoria who are involved in all these issues, and everybody is doing a piece of it, but I don't see many mechanisms by which to draw all that together. So lots to talk about. And Brian Larkin, who's president of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, talked about how do we get the national, even the national organizations related to policing together. Reimagining policy in Canada was sort of his theme, and what level of government should pay for what. So there was lots of interesting challenges, but let's hope next year we can all get together. So that's my report. Back to you. You're on mute, Fred.
Sorry, good catch. Mary, thank you for that and all that amazing work, but also thank you to the staff behind you, Trevor Dick and Paul Douglas, and all those that have been involved in enabling this work that we're able to report out, as well as the work that the board does. Any questions from staff or the board? No, thank you. When it comes to old business, I have some things which I'll talk about which will relate to some of the things that Mary's raised, but I'll do that when we come to old business, because I think it talks to some of that work we've done before, and we may need to wish to pick up again. So item 7, public awards and commendations. We see that piece there. Scott, I'll come to you, because when I read here, I see that as well as the award and commendations, and which is really on you, there's that public letter thank yous. Can you just talk the board through there what you expect from us on that, or is that something you do in-house? I'm seeing the second item, public thank you letters. August 12th, June 9th. Oh, were these letters that were published out? We see item 7, public awards and commendations. For information, Mayor Haynes. What is it you are showing that to us for, and is there any actions you need from us on the board?
No, it's just for awareness. Some of these you'll see in the public thank you letters, page 2, RCMP certificate of recognition for distracted driving enforcement efforts. Those have been presented to those members by the deputies and myself with photos taken and that. Everything else, there's division commanders commendations, chiefs life-saving awards. Some of the board members have attended some of those ceremonies, and it's just to track everything that has been received, and to ensure that the board is aware and that the public is aware.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions from the board? Do appreciate every time the board can come to these events. They are very important for keeping connected with the department, and of course for the morale of the department to see us there with them. Going on then to old business. This is interesting. As we know, we've got the joint presentation tomorrow in camera Some of the things that have been raised recently is the work we're doing around diversity and inclusion has been an item of interest from council. So that may raise tomorrow. So just be aware of that. I know that we've done an amazing amount of work, but one of the problems we suffer is that we're not necessarily getting all that information out as best as we can, but I do see the progress we're making. Does anybody want to talk to that at all? Mary? You're on mute, Mary. Tit for tat.
I know. I thought the meeting tomorrow was about the KP collective bargaining. Do you expect that they're going to raise other issues?
There may be some issues raised. We'll see. It's an open meeting, and
Okay.
Has the potential to ask questions. I just raised that now. Just be heads up for it. If they don't ask them, that's great. But I think the more information we get out, the better.
We'll certainly have that opportunity when we do the dinner and learn with council as well.
Correct. Okay, and then the other piece is we had a very nice delegation from Dr. Richard Stanwyck, Sophie, and Katrine, who work in the opioid naloxone space and the drug poisoning space. And in part of the presentation, he was talking about data that we asked for that shows a Saanich focus. And I did send that on to the board. Some of the things we see in that data compared to other jurisdictions such as Victoria is a much higher number of opioid poisoning deaths, drug poisoning deaths in private residence. And the reflection was that that may be linked to the stigma that's attached to drug taking. And then we raised the notion that the board had written to the federal and provincial governments about treating this as a medical issue, not a policing issue. It was raised at the Canadian Police Association of Police Chiefs on board with that, and he recognized all of that. And there was a request that we should continue that work, continue to lobby for destigmatization and treating this as a national health emergency, which would give them then the resources. And I know this is something that's an old business that the board has been on for the last 2 years, and it may be something that will be something that I'll be bringing back to council. Any reflections on that from the board? No, yeah. Go ahead, Mary. No, I just wanted to have this on the public record today.
Yeah, I think it just speaks for the need of an integrated approach on these issues too. Yeah. I guess the one positive thing, because it came up last month, was the concern about funding of the naloxone kits, and shortly after the province announced they were going to fund them. So, and I think they even talked about having them available for city council members and things.
That's right, and we did a city council training, so that was kind of interesting. And I have to say that was great work by a lot of people involved in that to get such a rapid response, and the Premier coming on and saying we heard the alarm bell, we're addressing it. But it took until the last minute to have that done. But since that's pretty much old business that we've done before, I can bring those letters forward again based on the work we've already done. And I'll look to do that, but I'll keep everyone informed.
Right.
Mary, Linda, sorry.
There was a good session. I don't know, Mary, if you did the last session for the CAPG conference, but a lot of it was around decriminalization in various jurisdictions and what other provinces and other places are doing. So there was a lot of information. So I took a lot of shorthand notes. So I'll see if I can do a summary, but they had some good ideas that we might be able to look at here just on policy and where we want to go on some of those issues. And it seems like we're all going in that same direction.
That's really a good idea, Linda. If you would share those notes, and I'll make a note to go and have a look at that piece. I guess we can get the link just to that. And it was noted when Dr. Stanwyck was giving his presentation from Island Health to Council that in the federal election, many of the leaders were talking exactly about this. So with the election now over and the government about to resume, this would be a timely time in November-ish, December-ish to get those letters off and just knock on the door again and say, remember, this was a commitment in the election. So that's just a heads up that you'll be seeing that action coming on. That's the end of it from me. Item 8.1 is COVID-19 update. Chief, it's Inspector Duffy coming in. Could you bring that in?
Go ahead, Dean.
Thanks very much. I'll keep this short, and I can quite honestly say I can't wait till the day arrives where we don't have to give COVID updates anymore. I'm sure we all share that. Anyways, as you all know, things have taken a turn for the worst regionally, provincially, and across the nation. But we've remained very vigilant and kept things very steady here at SPD. Our main thing that we focus on is communication. And this is vital. This is communicating with our external partners, meaning area chiefs, the BC provincial chiefs, police services, and Dr. Vu, our medical director. And we get really good information sharing through these means, and that helps us ensure our decisions are informed and they reflect our region and our organization effectively. Internally, the communication is paramount because our staff need to be kept updated on what is going on in our region and the information that informs our decisions. So our internal safety committee has been revitalized within the last month. And this committee is comprised of members and staff, both civilian and sworn, throughout all 6 divisions, to ensure that we hear voices from every corner of the organization and ensure we're addressing any gaps that we may have present as the pandemic continues to evolve and change. So we have good representation there, and we've been getting good feedback and making changes as needed. We have stayed responsive to the provincial restrictions and recommendations, but as reported out to you earlier and through the months, our incremental approach has really paid off for us. And what that has done is we've taken a hard, close look at many measures and decided to keep many in place while other organizations rolled them back throughout the summer months. And this has ensured the safety and integrity of the building has kept intact, and it has really made a big difference in the mental health and emotional health of staff, knowing that their work environment has been kept safe, and it is a high priority from the leadership team. So we're continuing along that line, and this road is still got a ways to go. We're expecting this to carry through into the new year. And right now we're currently arranging a new video message through Dr. Vu, as he can't attend in person for obvious reasons, but here for our staff to hear his messaging and see his voice and see his face while he does this impacts them a little deeper and a little stronger. So we're going to follow that again as we've done in the past. So that'll come out within probably a week or so. And really, that's all I have right now. The internal committee meets every 2 weeks, and we'll keep that going as long as necessary. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Inspector Duffy. Board, any questions? Scott, did you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, so board, on our behalf, thank you to all the departments for reporting out on this. I know a lot of work goes into preparing these updates. We are in a public forum, and public who are watching, I hope you're appreciating just the amount of detail, care and compassion that goes into these updates for everyone. For that now, I'll call an adjournment of the meeting and a set of the next date, which will be November the 2nd. Could we have a motion to adjourn, please, and confirmation on that date? Moved by Mary, second by Glenn. Any opposed? Seeing none, we are adjourned. We'll go into the in-camera portion of our meeting, and the date of our next open meeting will be November the 2nd. Thank you, everyone.